Hello, everyone. It is a full house. We have 8 people coming in on the Zoom, and then a couple of them are joining via phone. Um, Thank you so much for this wonderful session, for joining me for a wonderful session of engaging students with interdisciplinary creative computing using Scratch. It's an honor to be here. You all look wonderful. Thank you so much. So without further ado, we are going to get started. And those who are on the phone might have some visibility issues, particularly because the screen size is small. Please don't worry about it because we'll be providing this presentation and all the handouts and exemplars to you after the PD. So please don't worry about it. Um, so Pardon me for the Space Ninja suit. This is something that my kids love. So that's I'm Rashmi. You know where I live. And please feel free to email me now, today, tomorrow, if you have any questions about just this presentation or others. I am the District Digital Learning Coordinator, and my email address is right there. So for the session agenda today, we are going to be looking at why Scratch and why learn or bother about computing. Everything needs to exist in the interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary space because kids make multiple connections it's not a standalone learning about coding kind of a dialogue, but more about how a computer tool can help us make a better connection. So that's why we are going to be delving into that. Then we are going to learn a little bit about the Scratch interface and hopefully look at a lot of interdisciplinary activities which have been shared by a lot of colleagues of mine and yours and educators across all over the world. Scratch is a global community, so we are going to take a look at a few of them. And you can use any or all of them with modifications as you need. We will be creating a COVID-19 animation or a simulation today. In 5 minutes, it's not going to be as intense, but it's going to talk about social distancing. And we are going to be sharing our Scratch project and then all the resources that are mentioned here, plus a few online. There is a big global community out there, so that is always helpful when we tap into that and learn from each other. Lastly, I'm going to ask you to post your questions to the chat so that I can address them at the end of the session so that we can sort of have that information flow at the beginning and then Q&A at the end. So why learn about computing? Partly because computing or computer science is kind of part of the digital literacy or the new digital literacy as they call it. So I have this wonderful video and I'm not going to play 5 minutes of that, but just a few minutes just to see.
I think 19th century was about the Industrial Revolution, about electricity, about disrupting the agricultural society and making it more advanced. The 20th century was about physics and engineering to do more things easier in our everyday life, from refrigerators to washing machines. How convenient. And the 21st century is definitely the digital age. It's the internet.
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball or build a house, all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
The lettuce bot is a robot that can sense its environment. Every single hour, this lettuce bot is seeing 1.5 million plants, and it's taking individual action on those plants. We enable lettuce growers to have higher yields in their field by helping make it cheaper, by helping produce food in a more sustainable way. And that wasn't previously possible without computer science and technology.
I have a really fun job where we build Polyvore, which kind of combines all my favorite things, so programming as well as fashion and art and design.
So I'm going to stop right there. The link to this video is right in our presentation, so please feel free to take a look at that and many more like these. But the idea is, of course, it's in every application, and it's a way of thinking, and less about being a programmer, but more about being an enabler and a creator or a designer, and not just user of things or objects that are created by someone else. So it's kind of a tool that allows our students and us a way to create and add to this beautiful world. So this is a nice little, and I say nice because as a computer scientist, I look at this and this is marvelous. But this is Johns Hopkins COVID-19 Global Cases Center. And this is modeled using the computer science algorithm. And you can see that the visualization is key in this. And this JHUCC automation, all of that is running this beautiful interface, which is giving us so much more information and update on the cases today and tomorrow. So why Scratch? I go to this slide before I can even talk about Scratch, because Dr. Seymour Papert is who has influenced my life hugely, including many scientists and engineers and educators all across the world, and parents, because he really believed in alignment with Vygotsky and Piaget. He believed in the idea that kids learn best by doing things and by constructing models and failing at them, but sort of building that repertoire or grit to go back and try again and arrive at a place where they're comfortable with not perfect solutions, but problem solving process. And so more than standards, which it is part of, digital literacy and computer science standards are Massachusetts standards. Computer Science Teachers Association have standards as well, and they are integrated into the fabric of our standards in Massachusetts and across different states. But it is extremely important to recognize that not because ISTE says that students need to be computer scientists, but because we believe them to be creators. And as a parent and as an educator, this is wonderfully communicated from Dr. Papert and Dr. Mitch Resnick, who is the creator or father of Scratch. So why Scratch? We'll go to Scratch website, which looks like this. So Scratch 3.0 was recently launched. There was Scratch 2.0. And in Scratch, you can go to About Scratch. And About Scratch gives you a lot of history, some information. This is a beautiful TED Talk by Dr. Mitch Resnick about Scratch, who uses Scratch. What I love most about Scratch is also that it integrates, in 40 different languages and more. And so allows access for kids. It's also in schools, it's free. There is a translation page, and there is a lot of research that goes into providing information and guiding the process of Scratch. So that's why it's a great tool to start with. Scratch Junior is like the pre-K to K kindergarten tool that many of our kids are probably aware of. So them going into Scratch also allows them to have a good idea about how to interact in this interface. Which brings me to this nice little interface that handout that I've created. You will have access to this handout. Just gives you a quick tool capture of what the space looks like, or what are some of the important things to look for in Scratch. So I'm going to go to create, and you can create your login account. We have a student data privacy contract, conditional one for Scratch, so you can use Scratch with your kids. This is how the interface looks like. It has, I'm going to go between the handout and the interface. So there are costumes and sound menus right here up top. There are code blocks on the left, so you can see there are code blocks which correspond to the code block that we're choosing on the left. So motion gives you blue motion blocks, which are right here, which are about moving, turning, going to a particular point. Then you have the looks block, which is about speech, and then there is costumes and colors. There's also a sound block that we'll be playing with, and it changes some sounds. An event. So for instance, when we press the green arrow key, it allows you to start your scratch animation. So these are some of the events that you can use, and we will be using two of these in our animation today. And always label your project file with a proper project name. So I'm going to go and say COVID-19 social distancing project, right? My daughter is 6 years old, and I talked about a project that I wanted to do today, and we always talk about social distancing quite a bit. So she wanted me to make one with that in mind. So this is something that me and my 6-year-old have come together to create. So bear with me when we go into the project. But before that, what I wanted you to see are some interdisciplinary projects that have been shared by the global community, and I have a small little studio where I'm collecting some of these interdisciplinary projects. So the way you go to a studio is you go into my stuff, literally, and I have 4 studios, and then I go into Scratch projects where I have a few. And I wanted you to show the epidemic simulation project, which is created by Mitch Resnick. It's an amazing project, and you can see the Scratch community is really amazing about giving due credit where it's for the creators, and they are also very generous about sharing the projects so that you can remix them and recreate them. So just continuing with that tradition, you always want to make sure that you are also giving due credits. So as you can see, if I increase that, you can see the spread increases, and more people or objects are getting infected. So that's a nice little epidemic simulation, very apt for the times right now. I'm going to go back to my Scratch Studio, and I wanted you to see this one, which is the walk cycle. And it's a beautifully done animation, generously shared. So it has music and some amazing animations. So I'm going to stop there. It's a beautiful animation created. The way you can access this file or this particular programming is you can go inside the file, and you can see that there are multiple objects that they've created, and then you can see that there is some programming that's already in here. Hide block always allows you to take a look at what's the show block. You can click on them. There's also a watermark block, so and then there is the end block. So they've created this animation. There is a lot of programming that went into it. A lot of it is costumes that they have used, and costumes come right here, so you can see that they probably have a ton load of costumes that they have created to create this animation. So I'm going to go back to another one that I wanted to share with you, which is, let me go to the Scratch Studio. So in here we have this beautiful Voices of Civil War, which is right here. And you can see this project. So it's about Harriet Tubman, and you can see the project. You can see that kids are doing some research and inputting it into an existing showcase. It's sort of a animation. It is created by kids, so it's very, very important to sort of recognize how how kids are thinking, how much effort goes into it, and helping them while you're doing the project. So these are some variations of that project, so you can take a look at that, and you can absolutely use this project and remix it. So, I think I logged out, so I'm going to go back to Scratch. So as easy as scratch.mit.edu, I'm already logged in, but this is where you would log in, and I'm going to go back to my stuff, and I'm going to go to my studio, and in here, the other project I wanted to quickly show you was this precipitation project, which took some time to create because it has a lot more costume changes again. It has a lot more sprites.
The water cycle. Learn about the parts of the water cycle by clicking on each word in this interactive diagram.
So you can click
Runoff
on
includes the
runoff.
variety of ways by which water moves across the land. Cloud formation occurs as a result of the processes of transpiration and evaporation.
So when you go inside, you can see that there are many, many sprites, and Scratch likes to call these objects that you're placing on your screen as sprites. So you can see that it did take them quite some time to create these and then to program them, so that when you click on it, there is interactivity. So that would take some time. However, we are going to go back to, I'm going to leave this one. The way you can use any of these projects is by, is by going to the remix button, and I'm going to show that to you in a quick bit. It's okay. So let's look at one more project so I can show you how remix works. Okay, so we go in here. This is the transdisciplinary Scratch projects. It's taking a bit of a time, so I'm going to go to So we are going to take a look at the without bees project. So what would happen if the world was without bees? And you can see that they've added some music, text, research. There are many different ways in which you can do this project. You can also remix it, which means you borrow on the code, you remix it, and then this project appears to be in my library, so I can start using this. But when I share this project, right, it will give thanks to the original project, which is a wonderful thing about Scratch. So please remix it, change it, add to it. It becomes editable, but make sure that you are giving due credits and instructions and notes and credits to the person who created it. So those are a few of the projects. There were a lot more. I love this life cycle of a plant project, and they have a lot. It's a very simple project where you can see from seed the plant grows, and all of the global warming or what if the moon disappeared project. So I'm going to give you access to my stuff, or my studio of transdisciplinary Scratch projects, and you can absolutely borrow those or use those and change them as you need or remix them. Moving forward, now we are going to create a Scratch project of our own, and as promised, we are going to create one which talks about the COVID-19 and social distancing project. So to create that, I'm going to go to Create, and I am going to name that project as Command A, COVID-19 social distancing is important as my title. Now, our tentative plan right now is that when I talked to my daughter, she did learn that many of the viruses, SARS, MERS, came from bats. So she wanted to have a bat sprite or an object on the screen. She wanted a coordinate access, and she also wanted her to be on the other side. And, if someone is not following the social distancing, the bat is going to fly all over the place and land at, say, this coordinate. And as she walks past the bat and touches the bat, she gets infected. I'm not going to say my daughter, but the sprite gets infected. So that's kind of our storyline right now. So I am going to do that by going to my Scratch, my COVID-19 Scratch project. This is where I code. I love the Scratch cat, but I don't want the Scratch cat. I want a bat as my sprite. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to choose a sprite, and this brings me to a big library of sprites where I'm really hoping that there is a bat, and there is one. So that bat I'm going to put right here, and I'm going to get rid of my cat. And then I'm going to add another sprite, which is the ballerina. So I'm going to add her to the other end of the spectrum. And as I said in my plan, I also want to have a nice little coordinate axis here. So I go to this piece, which is the background. It says choose a backdrop. So I'm going to choose a backdrop, and there are many backdrops that you can choose. But right here is my beautiful XY grid, which I love. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to start programming. What I want to do is make this bat, when I click this green arrow or flag, I want this bat to go to, say, 0, 0, then flutter around and then land somewhere here in the path of this ballerina walking. So I'm going to go to get that green flag. I'm going to go to the event, which is right here. So give me a quick second. I'm going to go to the event one here. And there, when the green flag is clicked, I want my bat to move. So I'm going to go to the motion block, and I'm going to say glide bat to a position. And in this case, I want it to go to 0, 0, right? So I'm going to put 0, 0. Then I'm going to make that bat glide to some random position. And then I want that bat to come down to somewhere to -120. This is going to be 0. So that's where the bat is going to come and sit. So let's test this out. So 1, 2, and 3. And I'm happy with that. That looks pretty good. But if I'm not happy, I can always go back and test it. And this is a nice little simulation environment, which allows me to do a lot of prototyping and testing, which is amazing. Another great feature of Scratch, which allows our kids to sort of create something, test it out. They're not happy with it, they can go back and retest it, which is a great engineering design process, part 2. Okay, so what do we want our ballerina to do? So when I click a space bar on my computer, I want my ballerina to move to, let's say she's going to start moving, gliding one step at a time towards this option. So I'm going to ask her to go to 0, and I'm going to ask her to go to 120, okay? Now, if I say 120 and then test it out, so she's going over there. Maybe I don't want her to go there, or maybe she can. So I'm going to add another one, and then I'm going to bring her over to -120. And maybe I can bring her to do some random. So let's test that out. And when I test it out, okay, so there she is. She's moving around and he's moving around. So I'm going to take that out. Just want her to... when you want to get rid of a block, all you're going to do is literally take them and put them right here in the blocks right here, and they go away. So that's a very quick trick to get rid of them. You can also right click on them and you can delete a block, or you can duplicate a block, or you can add a comment. So now what I want her to do is when she meets with the bat is in the front. So he shows up right on the front of the girl. So I won't be able to see what happens to the girl. So what I'm going to do is going to bring her to the front. So I'm going to go to look, and in there maybe there is a command which says go to the front layer, because it's all layering in here. So when she comes to the front layering, she's going to get infected. So I'm right here. And you can see that I'm coding the ballerina. So she shows up right here. And for the bat shows up right here. So this is how you know that I'm coding for the ballerina or for the bat. Okay? So now when she comes in the front and she came in contact with the bat, she wants to say that, she's going to say, I should have followed. Oh no, I should have followed the social distancing guidelines. And then I'm going to ask her to wait so that we can see what's happening. So I'm going to ask her to wait for some time. Then I'm going to go and change her color. So I want to change her color 2 times. So I'm using a repeat loop. And in the looks, I'm going to go here and change color effect by say 25. I'm going to set the color to 40. You can change that to whatever you would like. And then I'm going to go back to say, and I don't feel so well. I think I am infected with COVID-19. And then I'm going to also add another note from her, and where she is asking us to please follow the social distancing guidelines. Good luck. So this is my basic program that I've created. I have a bat program, I have the ballerina program, and then when I click this, go, the bat is moving, and yep, and he touched the girl, and you can see she changes the color, and then she's asking us to follow the COVID-19 guidelines. We are going to do this again, so let's test it out again. 1, 2, 3, and then she moves, she connects with him, and her color changes because she got infected, and now she's going to say, give us advice. Okay, so that's our animation that we just did. So without further ado, I want to make sure that we have enough time for the questions. So do not forget to always share your projects. If you share your project, you will be, then others can use it and view it. Make sure you put in the instructions, notes, and credits, so others can give you due credit as you create your projects. So that was a quick remixing and sharing that we did. For questions and resources, I'm getting a bunch of questions here, so I'm going to go through a few of them. But before that, there are a lot of resources that are available to you on the Scratch website. So I'm going to go to the Scratch website, which is right here. And there are, when you go to About, there is a lot of information for parents that you can share out. There is an FAQ, which is very, very helpful. There is also info for educators. So there are some wonderful projects right here, which is in the creative computing space done by Scratch Ed team that you can use. You can also go to ideas, and there are a bunch of simple, very simple tutorials and activity guides that you can use with your kids to get started. So animate your name or imagine a world. I like this one a lot. You can use those, and they are very, very simple project ideas that you can use with your kids. There are a bunch of them. They're not directly connected to a content area, but you can always sort of morph these into, this can be a parabolic motion, and it's a pound game, and there's always mathematics that is used in these tutorials. You might have to make a very distinct attempt at getting projects, like creating studios where you have transdisciplinary projects that you are using, showcasing, and working on. Okay, so one of the questions that came up is, where can I find some wonderful resources? Oh, great. So we just had a conversation about that. These are great activity guides. These are beginner resources that you can have access to, and you can absolutely use any of these and all of these. As I mentioned before, they're in the About page. You have info for educators, which gives you this creative computing guide. And there are many, many resources right here that you can access. There is a curriculum resource right here that you can absolutely access. So when we go to educator guides, there are some really wonderful ones that are created as well that you can use. Next question. Okay. Can these resources? Absolutely. These resources, including the slide deck, my slide deck, and the Scratch studio projects will absolutely be made available to you along with the screencast. These projects will be linked to the projects that I have in the studio, so please go to the screencast, go to the presentation, and feel free to use whichever project you need. Please contact us, the digital learning team, as you need to develop these projects so that we can support you in implementation of these. Exploring Scratch 3.2, this handout, I got another text where, will this handout be included? Yes, absolutely. This is for yours to take. You can modify it as you need. This is a nice little caveat that we created at Leslie, so please feel free to use whichever resource you need. I also wanted to share our Computer Science Education Week, and we have a student contest that we'll be running again next year. And this contest focuses on many different applications, but Scratch application is one of them, and they can create different animations, so they can create relevant sort of stories to using Scratch, and they can submit it. I know we are kind of running out of time, so I wanted to make sure that I answer all the questions. There is another question coming through by phone. We have a couple of people who joined via phone. I again apologize you couldn't see the whole screen, but this screencast will be made available to you, so you can always go back to it and view it as needed. Absolutely. I also wanted to point out to the CS First CS First resources. These are great resources to look at. This is curriculum made easy, and it is CS Teach First. So please do use that as you need. There are unusual discovery and art and animation and game design and storytelling, so many different projects that are included in here with guides, so you can absolutely use the CS First resources as well. Having said that, where would these screencasts and resources hosted? Well, we envision a lot of the digital learning resources to be hosted on the digital learning page of our WPS Extended Learning site. I have already connected Scratch, Scratch Junior, and many of these resources here. But we'll also have a PD resources page where we are going to post all the screencasts and webinars that happened today, and the resources that went with those webinars. So I hope to have all of the resources available to you tonight or by tomorrow morning. But If they are not, you can always email me and I can send you the links as well. Um, I'm so sorry, we are running out of time, so I'm going to stop right now. But please do keep sending us emails and questions, and the digital learning support specialist and myself and the library media specialist um, and you, we are all collaborating in getting our kids on this beautiful journey with computer science and integration. Thank you again. Have a beautiful day and have a wonderful weekend. Thanks. Bye.